So hello and welcome to Do Delegate or Ditch. If you are already on the call, it's only just 12 o'clock. If you can put a comment in the box below just to say hi and where you are, where you're geographically located, that would be great. That will let me know the microphones and everything are working and that you can hear me. I'm going to invite you, Claire, to do the same. Claire, who's my webinar manager, is also helping me online to make sure all the technology works. If Claire, you could pop a message in the box, that would be great, because I haven't heard the bleep go. And I just need to check with you that's all working. So hello, everybody. Just want to check that everybody can hear me okay. Hello, so welcome to How to Do, Delegate or Ditch. If you are on the call and you can hear me, that's great. If you can put your name in the comment box below and just put where you are geographically, that will be help both Claire and I to know the technology is all working. At the moment, I'm just checking you can hear me. So hello, welcome to Do Delegate or Ditch with Confidence. It's just a couple of minutes past 12, so a bit of housekeeping really while we wait for people to come onto the webinar. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cheryl Andrews and I'm the Strength and Solution Detective. And what I need to do is check is, can you hear me okay? Can you confirm that you can hear me by putting your comments in the box? It'd really be helpful if you can put your comment below to say where you are geographically. It also gives me an idea who's on the call live with me, and I can make sure I tailor the content to the specific things that you're asking me for. And if you can let me know what you'd like to have happen on the webinar today. So Claire, I know that you're supporting me as the webinar manager, and you're also there in sunny Lanzarote supporting. If you can just put a comment for me, Claire, just so I know that the comment box is working, because I haven't got any comments from anybody else as yet. I'm wondering if people know they have to press the play button. It turns out the technical thing is I have to press read just to get the thing. So welcome to the webinar. Becky, we have you in Horndean, Sam in Waterlooville, and you can hear me loud and clear. Gavin, you're, yes, you can hear me. So whereabouts are you? You're Gavin, you're, I know you're Southampton way. Sophia, you're Southampton. Teresa, Bedford. Portsmouth you are. Have you moved, Gavin? Lil, you're over at Bishop's Waltham. Nikki in sunny Epsom, Surrey. And I know that there are a few people waiting for the recording from California. So a warm welcome to How to Do, Delegate or Ditch with Confidence. Now that we know who's on the call so far and where you are, perhaps just let me know what you'd like to get out of today's call. If you haven't already emailed me, just pop a note in the comment box. What is it, if you could go away with one thing from today's webinar that could make you do more of what you love and ditch the critic that says you can't, then do pop in, refresh the comment box so that I can actually see your new comments. So The webinar is focusing on how do you do more of what you love and ditch the critic who says you can't. So if you're the kind of person at the moment that perhaps hasn't got any clarity and you can't see the wood for the trees, or perhaps you're trying to please everybody, you want your business to be really successful, but you also want to be there with your head clear and present for the people that really matter in your life. And perhaps you're feeling like when you communicate, it's like hitting your head against a brick wall, where perhaps you're going around in circles and you're a bit sick of the same old story, then you're in the right place today, where we're going to be sharing some practical tools can help you understand why. So I'm hoping today you're going to leave with understanding of why you're not always heard and understood, why sometimes you don't even listen to yourself, and a comprehensive communication toolkit to gain clarity of what you want and how to train others to listen. I also hope that you'll join a community of dedicated people who are learning how to collaborate and bring the best out of each other by joining the step-by-step listening community. Who's the webinar for? It's for busy people who want to do well in business and want to return home to their family with headspace to listen, engage, and support those that matter to them. It's for people that are sick and tired of saying you're going to do something, but then never get around to doing it, and you want to know why and how to change that behaviour. I'd like you to leave feeling like this, with many light bulb moments, understanding yourself, a plan for success, and know how to make decisions with confidence. Decisions that will work for you and the people that matter to your success and happiness. How I'm going to do that is I'm going to go through this agenda. We're going to first of all do introductions. So what will be really great to hear is what do you actually want to know about me? I could spend quite 5-10 minutes telling you a life history story, but actually maybe that's not relevant. What I want to do is keep this hour very focused on what's going to make a difference to you. So again, use the comment box. Tell me, what do you want to know about me? What do you need to know about me? What do you need to know in order to really engage and learn on this webinar? And share some of your comments and I'll go through those shortly. Then I'm going to share with you some setup activities, things that will help you understand how you hear. When you're talking, what are you actually hearing? When other people are speaking, what are you hearing? Then I'd like to spend about 3 minutes telling you about the step-by-step listening retreats. I also want to run by you a new event that I really want to put on, but I want to check with you. Do you think this would be of interest? And then I want to leave you with 3 coaching activities to set you up for success and then ask you what you'd like to have happen next. If that sounds like a great place to start, let's get going. I'm going to just check what you've put on your comments, so you'll have to bear with me while I play with technology. So Hazel, you'd like to get the right words to say to clients to booking repeat treatments and how to buy more Mary Kay products perhaps as a package rather than individually. Anybody else? Remove any limiting beliefs that have more focus of time. Yeah, we'll be covering those. And how to get more people interested in becoming self-employed. Okay, so that's great. So is there anything in particular you feel you want to know about me, or even about the webinar, or anything that you feel you need to know that before you're going to concentrate and actually really focus on learning at your best with me today? Anything in particular? No? Okay, so a brief overview is I'm mum and a wife, married to Mark for 10 years. It's both our second marriages. We have 5 children between us, aged 27 down to 17. And one of the things I hate is seeing people stuck or feeling limited. And I have a real strong need for people to, for things to be fair and for everyone to feel heard and understood. And I don't know if you can read it on the bottom of your screen, but mine's got a certified clean language facilitator. And that's a process I came across in 2008 that has quite literally transformed the way that I think, the way that I feel, and the way that I engage with my clients and my family. And 7 years ago, I was actively using it to help my clients get clarity and confidence of what they wanted and setting them up for success in the future. And it was only in recent years that I actually realized the benefit of transferring it to every single relationship that I have in my life. And that's what I do nowadays. So tell you a little bit more about that. So what we do is we help people get clarity, confidence, and bring about change. We do it by using a process called clean language, which was developed by a chap called David Grove in the 1980s. And it's a question technique that's been stripped of assumption and judgment. It's about letting people know that, or asking questions that don't suggest something. So for example, if I said to you right now, what do you need to do in order to do more of what you love. I've already inferred that you need to do something. And by that, then your brain's going, so what does she think I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I have to do? So your brain's now searching, but maybe you need to be more organized. Maybe you need to have more confidence. So David Grove worked out that if you strip those questions right back to be something that was just open for you to completely communicate what you were thinking, you were more likely to get results and change. And he designed it with working with post-traumatic stress clients back in from Vietnam in the 1980s. And what I've done is used it with a more business mindset to help it be used for more conversational levels to help you get clarity and confidence of what you want and the ability to ask for it. So we're going to be talking a bit today about metaphors and non-judgmental listening and how our assumptions can impact our communication, and also the importance of space as we go through. I've just seen I've got a message via Messenger. So Paul is with us in Southampton. That's great. But you can't use the comment box. But don't worry, because I can see your Facebook message, Paul. And so I can see you there. And we know you're online. So thanks for sharing that. So how we work at Step by Step Listening is we have how I started in 2008 was I started out just helping people get clarity and confidence of what they wanted. And for many people, that was enough. They went off and they did it. They made it happen. Once they knew what they wanted, action happened. But what I discovered is that some of them needed to be set up for success, and they really needed to know how they needed to be in order to be more confident in implementing those desires, if you like. And as we looked at what do they need to be able to work at their best, we started to notice a pattern. And this is where the Do Delegate or Ditch program started. I started to notice that people continually needed to be planned more effectively. They needed to manage their time more effectively, and they needed to make decisions. And what was really stopping them from doing it effectively, they'd go on lots of courses, they would go and watch time management programs, they'd look at planning strategies, but they didn't work for them. And so by modeling out how they work and how they learn at their best and understanding their own personal patterns, they started to get some understanding of why, when they communicated what their plans were or their time frames for things, why other people didn't understand them and therefore didn't support them. And so it's very much I'm going to talk you through a lot of that today. This particular slide, planning, time management, decision making, and working and learning at your best, is what we're going to really focus on in this particular call. But I wanted you to know how it fits in between clarity and the programs that we run. So the other part that happened, once people knew what they wanted, they knew how to plan in their own unique way, they understood how their brain processed time, and they could make decisions that they had absolute confidence in it, and they knew what they needed to work and learn at their best. The next challenge was other people needed different things, which is where motivate, manage, or mentor came about. And people really needed to understand what do they need to work at their best with others. And what we recognized is they needed a lot of the tools that we were sharing with them in the clean language process, i.e. they needed to be able to ask good questions, they needed to be able to manage feedback, and they needed to listen without judgment and assumption. And really this part of the program came about for people who would say things like, I know what I should do is I should be patient and listen and not interrupt, but I find myself just can't stop it. Or I say it and then they say something and it pushes one of my buttons, and before I know it, I'm getting irritable with them, and I can't separate what I want from what they're saying. And so this program came about because clients wanted to be able to manage and filter all of the information that was coming into them, and they wanted to improve the way they listened and communicated with each other. And although we'll touch on this a little bit, this isn't the part we're going to go into a lot of detail today. But as I say, I wanted you to have an idea of how it fits with all the programs. So we're going to now do 5 activities that are going to help you understand yourself. But I'm going to ask those that are on the comment boxes, whether it's Paul on the Facebook page or whether you're using the comment box on the screen, just to notice and share your experiences so you can start to see the differences between yours and other people. One of the things I've noticed in life is people recognize we're all different, but everyone keeps trying to make everybody else the same as them. And this is really about you acknowledging where you are now, being curious about how other people think and feel about the same things, and then working out how you're going to work and live with those people in harmony so that you can get the best out of each other. So just check in for yourself at the moment. Are you in the right space to learn at your best on this webinar right now? Are you at the right height? Are you facing in the right direction? And are you at the right angle? And is that the right distance between you and the screen? So what would really be helpful for me now is if you can put a comment in the comment box to just share, are you in exactly the same position you were when you started before I asked the questions, or have you adjusted yourself and moved? And helping me to see whether, just noticing with each other, just notice how many of you stayed the same and how many of you changed. How many of you gave up your hour lunch break today for vital learning and perhaps weren't quite as comfortable as you need to be to learn at your best? Just be curious about what is happening and what is working for you. So a couple of stories that will help you perhaps get some perspective on this. When we work with clients with clean language, I will say to somebody when they come in, where would you like to be? And then I'll ask them where they'd like me to be. And yes, they do look at me a bit strange because often people are not given the permission. So I want you to think if you're managing a team or you want to your loved ones to feel safe to talk to you, maybe you control the environment you're in a lot. So if you can let go of be, then you may get more productive discussions out of them. Where we are and where we sit and where we face can make a big difference to our performance. Now, the thing is, I will say to you, it's key as a facilitator, I forego what I need for the sake of 90 minutes with somebody. And but I don't do that at the expense of my health. If I did have one client that had me stand for 45 minutes, and about halfway through when she was saying that, you know, I think people look down on me, and I was standing and she was sitting, and she suddenly realized it was actually more to do with her confidence in her new management role. I did ask her for permission to sit down because my back was now aching. But she wasn't consciously aware at the time that she'd placed me above her, but it's part of that learning. But I wouldn't stay uncomfortable for the whole of that session either. I do need to preserve my own health and well-being, but it's just be curious. How often do you control the space of the people that you want to engage in communication? And how often do you ask for the space that you need to be able to work and learn at your best? Talking about learning at your best, these setup questions are something I hope you'll use time and time again. These questions are, you can substitute the word learning to working, managing, selling, anything you want to improve. But for today, for the webinar, I'm going to ask you to think about when learning is at its best, that's like what? Just draw or represent. If learning is at its best, that's like what? It might be words you place down, it might be a symbol, it might be a blank piece of paper, but just notice. And be curious that you've come to this webinar to learn, and just notice whether or not the learning environment is right for you right now. And thanks to the Paul who says there's no change at all, apart from this home office now needs more tidying. Yeah, these questions can make you pay attention to what's going on around you. So is anybody else noticing anything different about when you're learning at your best, that's like what? So now you know what it might be like. And I will say to you, you might not know the answer straight away today, but sleep on it. Your subconscious will start to work. Be curious about this over the next couple of days and start to think about, what is it like when learning is easy? What is it like when learning is enjoyable? And I found over doing this a number of times at the beginning of lots and lots of sessions, I've now realized I can learn in much more varied environments. I was very restricted before, what I was comfortable with, and my comfort zone is stretched the more I've become aware of what I consciously need. So how do you need to be to learn at your best? What kind of you is that you? And just draw or represent what you need to learn at your best. And now that you know how you need to be and how you need the learning to be, is there any other kind of resource or support you need to learn at your best on this webinar? And I'm just catching up with some comments there. Claire, you've asked if this is the chat box. Yes, you're in the right place. I realised I had them coming down in reverse order, so I didn't catch everybody's notes. So thank you everybody else who's now leaving messages, and you can all hear me loud and clear. That's fab. And we've got Cheryl from Adelaide. Thanks for joining us. And hopefully we're going to bring this program out to see you soon. So is there any other kind of resource or support you need from me right now that you're starting to notice that you're going to need to be able to learn at your best for the next hour on this webinar? You'll have to bear with me because there seems to be a delay between you leaving your messages and me actually getting them. But hopefully you'll be able to use these questions. One of the things I found with my son when I was homeschooling him is that he needed to be reclined in order to learn at his best, in order for him to really cogitate and to take on challenging conversations and things that really made him think. He needed to be leaning back, which obviously in school they used to tell him that he can't lean back, you shouldn't rock on your chairs, etc. But actually he physically learned better in that position. My business partner Roz, when we had team meetings, if she was really going to be challenged to think about things, she found it easier if she laid down. If I lie down, my brain switches off and I can't think. Caitlin, my mentor, she will walk around to think, whereas I have to sit still and I need to write in order to think. So just get curious about what do you need to be able to learn. And the more you're aware of what you need, it's not that you can always have it, but because you know why you feel uncomfortable, you can do something to emotionally resource yourself whilst you can't have it. So maybe if I can't write things down, I immediately know why I feel uncomfortable, and I can come up with internal strategies to manage that state until I can resource myself accordingly. So, or I can ask if I can write it down. If that's, it depends how important it is that I learn the particular content of what's going on. So we're going to do an exercise now called 5 senses. I'm just going to check your comments to make sure there's nobody needing anything else from me in terms of learning. So Misbah, you want to, learning at your best is feeling free, inclusive and comfortable. So hopefully you're feeling inclusive now, but what determines inclusive? How would I know that it was inclusive? How would you better communicate to me what it is you need to be able to learn at your best inclusive with me? So a quick look. People are changing positions, get comfortable. And Gavin saying the wording of the second question on the slide is messing with your head. So what, just going back, I will go back, because are you on about the for learning to be like you? For learning to be like, oh, I've missed that out. So for learning to be like that, you need to be like what? So well spotted, thank you, Gavin. Have to have one for a little bit of feedback. I will update that before I share it out later. So now I'm going to talk to you about your 5 senses. When you're learning, when you're communicating, when you're listening, when you're engaging with yourself and other people, you are using all your 5 sensories. Making the assumption you have them. Obviously, if you were blind or deaf, then you will be compensating with the other sensories. So I'm going to do an activity with you now, and I'm going to have to probably just take a little bit of time and allow you to put your answers on the screen so that we can engage with each other a little bit more about this. But I want you to really notice, I need at least 4 of you to share your answers with me so that we can look at your answers and then compare them with each other. This is one of the things that really blew my mind when I started to realize that when I spoke, this is what other people were doing to the words I was communicating. So I was thinking what I was saying was really logical. It made sense. Why didn't they get it? So I want you to do this activity, and then we're going to compare the results at the end. So I can ask all of you, if you're now in the right space to learn and you've got all your resources around you, can you see an elephant? And what kind of elephant is that elephant? And whereabouts is that elephant? And if 3 or 4 of you at least can put a comment in about what kind of elephant that elephant is. And if you're someone that can't see an elephant, if you can put that you can't see anything, that's absolutely fine. There's no right answer or wrong answer. It's just what actually happens for you in this process. If you can share what kind of elephant and where is that elephant? And what I'll do is I'm going to ask a few more questions, and I'll come back to the comments in a moment, because I'm noticing there's quite a delay on my screen between you typing and me actually getting them. Hear music. And what kind of music is that music? And what was the first thing that happened when I gave the instruction, hear music? So we've got, I'm going to do 2 more activities, then we'll come back and check the comments. So those of you who can hear music, if you can put down what kind of music is that music and what happened in between the instruction and hearing music, if anything. So those who've got an elephant, I need to know what kind of elephant and where is it. If you can't see an elephant, put down that you can't see an elephant. And if you've got music, it's what kind of music and what happens in between the instruction and actually hearing music. So Cheryl's got a big grey elephant in Africa. What's really strange, you'll have to bear with me, guys, these actual comments are coming up. Oh, and Sam's got one that's old and grey and on the plains, but they're not actually in order. That's interesting. Let's see if we've got any more. And Sophia's got no elephant. Okay, that's fine. It's just going to check to see if we've got any more elephants in the room. And Paul's clarifying, you mean visualize an elephant, big grey and in the jungle surrounded by trees. So the instruction is see an elephant. So it's just noticing that somebody can't see one. One's got it in the African plains, another one's in the jungle. And when I've done this in a large group of 20 or so, I'll have people that will say it's a cartoon elephant or it's a pink fluffy elephant, and everybody has different elephants. And some people can't see it. And that'll be because that sensory isn't predominantly, active when you're actually processing information. So if your boss says, do you see what I mean? The likelihood is that language will battle with how you're processing information. You won't be able to see what they mean because that isn't how you process information or the world around you. So just checking now, has anybody got anything about the music? Claire Tackers, you've got, I started to listen to see if I could hear something and I couldn't. Oh, Nigel, you have got a cartoon elephant. You've got Indian elephants, so there's all different. So, Nicola, you've got trumpets. I saw the instrument first and then I heard it. So your visual side's clicking in and then you're getting a trumpet and then you can hear it. And when I did this 5 or 6 years ago, I still struggle now with the audio, but because I now know that my audio isn't that strong, I've been able to develop it, and that's opened up a whole load of learning for me. I now can do more audio learning than I could do before. I'm not going to go through all 5 senses, but I'm hoping this is giving you a bit of a flavour of when you speak, other people are using their sensories, however that might be, to process the information. They're creating a picture of what they think you mean before you've even finished the sentence. And that is why processes like clean language and extreme listening and really clarifying what people mean is so vital if you want to work in partnership and work at your best with other people. So we're going to go on to how you process time. Because I'm aware of time, I'm going to just talk you through this one rather than doing a physical activity online. But I want to, and this is part of the reason why I'm thinking about doing a one-day workshop, so we can actually bring all this to life in person rather than struggling to do it over a webinar. But one of the things that with time management and planning is that how people interpret the language you use around time and how people physically process time. So I have got something you can do actually to engage with. If I said to you, right, we've got this appointment here at 12 o'clock for the webinar, but I need you to be early, please put in the comment box now, what time would you arrive if I had asked you to be early? I'm just checking your comments in case you think I've just gone quiet on you. Just refreshing the screen again. And if I ask you, if at what point, if the appointment's 12, what determines late? At what point will somebody be late? And while we're getting the answers coming up and we can just be curious about each other's answers, Claire and I were getting ready for today's webinar. And I said to Claire on last week, what time do we need to get online beforehand? And Claire said, 11:45. So I said, oh, that's okay. For me, early means I'd be there at 11:30. And then Claire actually contacted me at 11:20 and asked me to log on and do something at 11:30. So even just us trying to get ready for this webinar, we have a different process of what time is. Where I see it really impacting people's decisions and their ability to plan and work in harmony with each other is that if you then add to that a rule, like when people don't arrive on time, they're not respecting me, or when people don't arrive on time, they're late, they're lazy, or they're not productive. When actually in reality, it's usually down to the fact they process time differently, or they hear your language very differently to how you mean it. And it's lack of questions to clarify exactly what you want and when you want it. The future past bit as well is much harder for us to demonstrate on the webinar. So I'm going to tell you a story about that. I had a lady a couple of weeks ago that was on the Do Delegate or Dish retreat, and she was getting frustrated because she had a sense of overwhelm. Business was going really well, but she was really struggling to find time for her family. And she's a real spontaneous, wants to have fun kind of parent and wife. And when she looked at how she plans and how she processes time, what she realized is she couldn't see beyond about 2 weeks. Even planning 2 weeks was a real stretch for her thinking. And what it turned out to be is that her husband had passed away 8 years ago, and whilst he was dying, she'd got used to living in the day and in the hour, and she'd shut her brain down not to really think about the future. And that had inhibited her from actually being able to stretch herself to plan out some time and give herself some time off with the family. So it can be things that have impacted us before, that perhaps our brain protects us and wants to stop us from getting hurt, so it stops us from looking further afield. Or it can be like mine, where I'm always visualizing big things from miles away, and I just don't have the ability, or didn't have the ability, to bring it closer for the detail. Whichever way you process time, I guarantee it will cause problems with your planning, your decision making, and the way that you communicate with other people if you don't learn to ask more questions and get clarity around what do the other people really mean and what are they hearing when you tell them to do things. So I'm just going to quickly check your comments again about time. Let's have a quick look what you've got. Thank you so much for all these great comments. There's lots going on. I'm afraid the process is a case of updating it and then checking in with you. So I'm learning a new skill of communication today about delayed reactions. Hopefully that's not causing too much confusion for those who don't like things jumping backwards and forwards, which would include me if I was the learner right now. Okay, so I'm going to be early. It would be at 11:45. Early for Gavin is 5 minutes beforehand. Becky, it's 11:30, and Miss Bert, it's 11:45. So just to give you an example, so just be really, really proactive to think to yourself, when you say early, what kind of early is that? And when you think someone's late, what determines late? And if you're finding some of your relationships are a bit fractious because perhaps you and your husband are trying to get out and he's always late getting into the car, Mark and I have had lots of fun working out what time we have to say so that we actually are ready to get out the door at the same time. And a lot of that's down to the way we process time. And if clients don't turn up on time, understanding how they process time can mean that you can start to meet and work with each other at the right time for you both. So the other one I'm going to talk is solution-focused questions. So this is really where clean language comes into its own. And it's really about asking questions that are going to focus your attention on solutions. So I've got a number of slides here that I'm going to go through quite quickly, but you're going to get the slideshow sent to you. You're going to get a recording of today, and you've got access to me in the Do Delegate or Ditch Facebook group. So if you want to find out more about this, we can take the discussion offline and carry on the development later on. So the 3 questions that really work for me is, what would you like to have happen? That helps you to really think. So if you hear yourself in your head going, oh, I wish I didn't do this, and they shouldn't be doing that, or I don't know. If you can take a deep breath and go, what would I like to have happen? If you write down the answer and you actually write down what you don't want, what you want less of, or what you wish would go away, then you can ask the question, then what happens, which will help guide your brain back to what would you like to have happen. Please don't be too tough on yourself. If you find yourself finding it really difficult to stay with what you want and not what you don't want, your brain is actually hardwired to look for danger. It's hardwired to make sure that it protects you. So it is geared. They reckon, I read one of my coaching books, I think it was 80,000 thoughts a day, and they reckon 90% of them are negative. It said 80,000 plus. I think someone must have got bored around the 80,000 point, actually not counting them. But the point is that most of our thoughts, it's not, when you say someone's negative, the brain is actually designed to look for danger. So it's looking for things that could potentially go wrong, or have gone wrong, or are going wrong. So training your brain to realize that we're no longer in the jungle, we're no longer cavemen and have to, react to our fight or flight mechanism, and training it to notice what do you want is the first thing about the strength and solution detective process. If you don't know what you want, and that you won't be the first person I've come across who I've worked with who have no idea actually what they want, they just know what they don't want, then write out what you don't want first in lots of detail and ask yourself lots of questions about that. And then when you know a little bit more about what you don't want, then try again with the question. So now you know that, what would you like to have happen? Sometimes the brain just wants the problem to be honoured and respected before it's prepared to go on and actually look at what you do want. Another way of sort of tackling this is to actually ask your brain, if it was just the way I'd like it to be, or it's at its best, it would be like what? So that's almost like use your imagination. Maybe you're seeing somebody doing exactly what you'd like, they're behaving in a way you'd like to be. So you might perhaps will model that. If it was just the way you'd like it to be, it'd be like, well, how would you imagine it would be happening? And the last one is you can do it from past. So again, it depends how you process time, whether you're going to be a future processor, a past processor, or in the moment. But if you're more past, you might find it easier to get into the solution focus, is what has worked or what is working. And they're the 3 questions that I find predominantly will check in. And my husband is now trained that if I'm whinging about something, he'll just go, so what is working then, honey? Or what would you like to have happen? And even my children will say to me, and what would you like to have happen when it's like that, Mum? So if you can educate yourself and the people around you to ask you those 2 questions, you will transfer your thinking from problem to solution. Once you've got your outcome written down and you know what you want, then get more clarity about it. Often what happens is we rush in and describe that to somebody else. So a bit like that late, or certain words, productive, efficient, people don't get it, they don't understand it. So get more clarity about it. Make sure you know what it means to you. Understand if you are wanting to be, let's have a look at the things you said you wanted to have. Attract more clients. What kind of attract? Is there anything else about that attract? And when you attract, then what happens? What kind of clients could those clients be? And how would you know that you're attracting clients? What would you hear and see? So just thinking, putting your own words and language into those questions, you can get more clarity of what it is that you want to have happen, which means when you communicate it to other people, you'll have more confidence because you'll know what you mean. And it might sound daft, but I've had managers talk to me and say, I want my team to be more productive. And I'll say to them, what kind of productive? And how will you know productive? What will you hear and see? And they'll go, oh, I don't know, actually. And it's usually they're using language like that. And nobody has checked in what will be the evidence, which is where the detective part comes in. What's the evidence you're going to have that change has happened? And last bit is the magic that really comes from the work from David Grove, is the power of metaphor. Now, not all of you will visualize metaphors, and that's fine. And not everybody will create a metaphor. And this work is equally as powerful conceptually if you're using just words and language. However, the brain does think in metaphor, it thinks in pictures. So if you can ask yourself, and when attract clients, do clients have a shape or size? Where is clients, or where do clients come from? If you can get a metaphor to represent that, it can help your brain hold on to the information. It can improve the way you retain it, how your memory works, and how you work with it. So my metaphor for working at my best is like a Formula One driver. I'm going around, I like to work at 100 miles an hour. I work very fast. But what I've also realized is that in order to maintain that long term, I need to have break between races. I need a break between seasons, and I need to have a really good team around me. And it's only with a good team can I run my life exactly where I want it to be. And so using that metaphor has made it easy for people to understand that when I'm talking really fast, or I fit loads of stuff into a small space, that is me at my best. And that we have to communicate when I'm off the racetrack rather than trying to do it on the racetrack. So metaphors can play a big part. I've worked with some people this week, I think, who are on the call, is that you've got a natural sponge is when you're absorbing stuff, or I think there's a nice beautiful pink hydrangea when you're in the business is blooming. When you've got those visual representations, it can help you to communicate it to other people clearly, and it can help you understand what it is that you want to have happen. So we're on to that bit now where you start communicating to other people. The bit I really didn't get when I very first started with Clean Language in 2008, I thought as long as I listened without judgment and I spoke clearly to people about what I wanted, then people would understand me and I would be able to have the life that I wanted to have. But it turns out that actually I was coming from a place of drama quite a lot. And the drama triangle comes from transaction analysis. And basically these are ego states. So your personality. So if you were a persecutor, sorry, I'm just going to take a drink of water. So if you're coming from a persecutor point of view, this will be where what you want to have happen is, say, be happy and successful. And if I say to you, how do you need to be? You might say, well, I need to be happy and relaxed and confident with who I am. And is there any other resource or support that I need? You'll go, well, I need my husband or my boss or somebody else. So somebody outside of you has to be different or do something different. So if you find yourself going, well, if you did that, I'd be able to do this. If you did that, I could do this. Then you're going to come from what we call a persecutor ego state. So it's almost like blaming that the other person is in the wrong. They've got to do something different in order for you to have what you want. If you're in a victim state, it will be more of a, oh, it's always me. I always get left to do it. I'm always left out. They never include me. So if you hear yourself with that kind of language, just be mindful, start catching yourself, whether you're blaming other people, whether you're victim, it's, you know, I never get anything, it's always left out, I'm not getting what I want. And rescuer, this is where between rescue and victim, I used to play I do all of them really well, by the way, and we all have them. But rescuer is where I found myself. I thought I was a really caring person because I wanted to help people. And what I discovered is I was actually trying to help people who didn't want to be helped. So a bit like the story with the scout, isn't it? That takes the old lady across the road and finds she wasn't trying to cross the road in the first place. She just literally crossed over anyway. So if you're rescuing, you're usually helping other people, but you resent it. So you'll be saying things like, you know, I have to do it for them because they're not capable. But actually, you don't really want to be doing it. You just feel you have to do it. So it's just checking in with yourself. And I found with this that two things happened. There was a couple of times when I really did want to do it. So I just changed the way I spoke about it. It's like, I do want to support my children. I do want to help my dad. Or I do want to help my clients or my staff, my team. And there was other times when I thought, actually, I don't really want to do it. So then I would ask myself, what would I like to have happen? So the downside of communicating from any of those points is that if you give out persecutor, rescuer, or victim, you'll get back one of them. So if I say to you, I'm picking on Becky because I can see your name on the thing. Becky, you know, if we're going to work together, you're going to have to do X, Y, and Z. And when you don't do that, that's not very good. The likelihood is you're either going to come back and go, oh, I'm really sorry, Cheryl, I'm not very good at this. I don't do very well. Or, oh, yeah, I can see you're upset, Cheryl. What can I do to help you? Or, no, actually, what you need to do, Cheryl, is you've got to do this. You'll come back and give me a whole things of what you're not happy with. And the trouble with drama triangle is we all stay in drama if we're communicating from that point of view. Now, a bystander is somebody who's observing drama happening with somebody else and thinks it's not their problem, it's not affecting me, so I'll just ignore it and don't stand in and do anything. So one of the clear things is once you know what you want and you're confident with the way you work and the way you learn, when you start communicating with other people, it's about really owning it and thinking about what you'd like to have happen. And that's where the power of pronouns came in for me. I found myself saying, we need to do this and we need to do that. And I wasn't very clear that I wanted to do this and I wanted them to do that. And I was using we quite a lot, or you know what I mean, when I mean I. And when I started to really look at the language I was using to communicate, I realized I was not making it very clear. And some of it was confidence. I didn't want to say, I want you to do this, because it felt a bit bossy. It felt a bit like I was being a bit demanding. But what I've realized, if I say we, it's a bit woolly and people didn't really know what I wanted. And so in order to be very clear, I want to do this and I want you to do that, I did need to have a good setup with that person to let them know that I was going to speak very clearly about what I wanted, and I had to look at my tone and my pace, etc. But again, power of pronouns can be something that really, if you start to listen to what you're saying, you might be saying we to soften it, but actually what you mean is I or you. And just check in. The question you can ask is, what kind of we is that? What kind of I? What kind of you? And just check that when you're communicating, if you're not getting the response you want, this is basically the time to look at it. Are you using the right pronouns? So, in summary, what does a strength and solution detective do? What I do is ask solution and strength focused questions, which I've explained and shared with you. I recognize the drama in your language and I help you step out of it. I give evidence-based feedback. I catch people doing things right, and I help you to collaborate and celebrate your strengths. So we're going to move on to a little bit about step-by-step listening. It's going to be like a whole 1 minute. I have 3 programs that I run. One is Clarity, Confidence and Celebrate. This is where you come to make a decision and decide what you want to have happen. So you know what you want and you can develop bespoke strategies to make it happen. And those bespoke strategies could be from selling in a way that feels right to organizing your time, etc. However, if you know that the reason why you don't speak up confidently is because you don't have time to have proper conversations with people, you know that you keep running out of time to speak to people, you're not setting yourself up for success because you're not managing your time or making decisions decisively, then you might start on the Do, Delegate or Ditch program, where you get really clear how you process time and how you plan. If you are really good at managing your time and you absolutely know what you want, but your challenge is actually getting other people to listen to you, then understanding how you listen and how you ask good questions and how you respond to feedback can give you the basic foundation tools to start to train other people to listen in a way that works for you. So they're the 3 programs, and it's a bit of an oversight of what we do. Don't really want to spend too much time on that. But what I'm looking to do is these retreats are for coaches, trainers, consultants, managers, parents, teachers, basically individuals that want to be the best they can be and want to be able to work at their best with others. And I suppose really my passion, that's Siri just got off on my phone. My passion is actually help people who want to work really hard at work but don't want to take the stress home. They want to be able to manage their own mindset so that when they come home, they are relaxed and able to have fun and engage and support their family accordingly. They're the people that really get me excited. So it's individuals that are juggling family and business, who want to be more effective at identifying strengths, want to make more money in less time, working with people you like. But most important, I suppose, the people that come on these retreats is you are sick and tired of the same story. You are sick of your own voice. You're sick of saying the same things over and over again, and you want the next chapter to be better than the last. And it's people who are ready to learn new skills and you want to take action. I warn you now, I'm not one for sitting around. I like things to happen. And if you want to talk about your story and the drama for long periods of time, then I do have people that I can outsource that kind of work to. But you come to me when you're sick of telling the story, when you absolutely had enough of telling the same story over in your head or to somebody else, and now you're bored of it yourself and you really want to start taking action. You want things to be different. So the thing I'm thinking about doing, and I've put the date in the diary as the 2nd of June, is called Safe to Speak Live Event, where we would go into a bit more detail of all of those things, the time, the 5 senses, your clarity, the decision making, the questions. You have a go at all of the things we cover in all of our retreats, but it'd be a bit like an onion. Today we've peeled off the skin, and we maybe take 2 or 3 layers off if we did it in a one-day event with about 20 of you together. And then if you come and work with me, I only work with very small groups of no more than about 9. where we would go right down to the core of those things if you want to be able to work it out in more detail. So what I'd like to know from you today is, I want your feedback, is that kind of one-day event of interest to you, or would you prefer to have things like the webinars and do it electronically like this to find out more? Now we're going to do the coaching sessions to set you up for success. I'm going to talk through some of those questions that are going to help you to consider, how do you learn and how do you work at your best? Help you to be mindful of space and what works for you. Develop your 5 senses. Learn how to process time. Stay out of drama and own your opinions. So if you're comfortable, this is a little bit of time for you to work again now. Coaching activity 1. The question is, what would you like to have happen? Take a moment now and write down what you'd like to have happen. Just notice whether you're writing what you want and what you don't want. And you can bring that outcome into the Do, Delegate or Ditch group, and we can share that. Can I also ask you to either email me or put a note in the comment box, how many of you would not be comfortable doing a Facebook group about Do, Delegate or Ditch, or would you prefer if I set one up on LinkedIn? If you need one on LinkedIn specifically, then let me know and I'll set one up. And coaching activity 2. So when whatever you've written down is what you want, it's just the way you'd like it to be. It'd be like what? And I've noticed, Gavin, I've left a would out of that question as well. It would be like what? So if X, Y, Z, your outcome is just the way you'd like it to be, it'd be like what? And that just stretches you to see whether you're just putting down what you think you can have or what you think other people would actually want, or you're actually doing what you really, really want. Now you know what you really want. How do you need to be for that to happen? You need to be like what? And so for you to be like that and your outcome to be like that, what kind of resourceful support do you need? And where could that resourceful So this setup question you can use over and over again. You could leave this and come back to it a day or two and add to it, because the subconscious mind will have time to think about it and process it. So if you're more of a forward thinker, you might find you can't go back and find that information, but now you've put your attention on it. Over the next couple of days, you'll start to collect data. You'll start to notice it and understand what that means for you. And the last activity is feedback. So in relation to what you want to have happen, one of the things I found people do is they go straight into problem solving, and they don't always take time to recognize what's already working and build up from what they've already got that's in place. So when you're considering what you want, so we had on the emails that came through was attract more clients. So what is working to attract more clients? Somebody else wants to leave feeling pumped up and raring to go. So what is working that leaves you pumped up and raring to go? Hopefully the person who wanted great questions, you've got some questions from this. More tricks for being you. So what is working to be you? So whatever your outcome was that you wanted from this call today, think about what is working. And again, if you can't think of anything straight away because your brain perhaps isn't geared to go that way, start paying attention to it over the next few days. And think about, how do you know it's working? What do you hear and see specifically that's telling you it? Look for evidence. Collect the evidence. Record the evidence. Whether it's recording it on audio or recording it in a notebook or taking photographs of it, start to notice what is working or what has worked. What's not working? And again, how do you know? What's the evidence? And what needs to happen for it to work better? And what I would say to you is, people seem to jump straight into what's not working and do what they'd like to have happen. But if you can balance it out with what is working and what needs to happen for it to work better, then you do build your confidence up, because you start to recognize it. Every time I do this with somebody, invariably, they're 80% of their way there already. They're so busy and consumed with the decision or the problem or what's not working, it's sort of made bigger in your head than it really is. and training you to really proactively notice what is working about whatever the thing is you want to have happen. Really paying attention. This was, for me, this was the deal breaker when it came to my daughter, who, for some of you know, we were really struggling with her 4 years ago when she was 16. She was screaming and shouting, kicking for 3 or 4 hours a night. And the way I had to look at it is, tonight it was only 2 hours and 55 minutes, and last night it was 3 hours, and eventually we got it down to 30 seconds. But if I just consumed myself with a conversation about she's screaming and shouting again, instead of noticing that she was getting calmer quicker and sooner, and that what I was doing was having a positive impact, I may not have ever got to that point where we have a really good relationship today. She had a lot of fear going on. There was lots of changes going on in her life. She was dealing with bereavement and some changes that she didn't know how to handle. And I was basically able to, by just getting those little nuggets of what was working, was able to pull it back and start to make myself feel better that I was doing the right thing, and therefore could continue to do what I was doing. Whereas in the past, I'd have thought, well, that's not working, and I tried something else, and that's not working, tried something else. Whereas actually just noticing even the smallest change, the smallest amount of improvement, it gave the ability to take the learning to the next level. And that's why I think with communications, where it goes wrong is you might say to somebody, I want you to be more thoughtful, more romantic, more considerate, more proactive, whatever it is. And then the minute they start to show improvement, you miss the opportunity of recognizing the change because it's not big enough, or it's not all of the way there. So really pay attention to what's working, and any small change, recognize it, give feedback to yourself and to the people that matter to you. So I just wanted to think about, now that I've been talking for the last hour, what do you know now as a result of this discussion? I'd really love these sent as feedback. If you, I know this comment box is a bit of a delay thing, I'm afraid. So it might be that we have to ask you to send me an email. I'd love to know more about what you know now as a result of it, and what difference does knowing that make, if any. And if you really don't know anything at all, please tell me, because all feedback is good feedback. It's about me getting a balance between what people have learned and what they haven't, so I can improve the next webinar. And now that you know all that, what would you like to have happen next? So those are 3 questions that I'd really like to know about. I'm going to send you an email to follow that up anyway, but hopefully that's been for use to you. So your next steps are, you can join us in a group, book a clarity session if you haven't already done so, or you want to do that again. Let me know if Safe to Speak is something you're interested in, or book a retreat. Either way, I hope what you'll do is find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Keep in touch, and I would like you to share with me what is working. Tell me about your successes. I can never get too many emails in my inbox telling me how things have improved or relationships are getting better. And obviously, if it's not working and you're really struggling, I also want to hear from you. But please don't leave it the only tell me when you're struggling. I love to hear the good sides as well. And that leaves me just to say a little bit of acknowledgement, a huge thank you to David Grove, who sadly passed away in 2008, just before I found out about the process, who gave away all of the clean language ethos and principles on a generosity framework. And Caitlin Walker, who knew him personally, went on to just develop systemic modelling, which is using it in groups for collaboration tools. Marion Way, Penny Tompkins, and James Lawley, who have trained me in symbolic modelling, so using clean language on a one-to-one training. But I also love Byron Katie's work called Loving What Is. And one of the questions she says is, if you're complaining about somebody else, just check in. Is it true, if not truer, that you should be taking that advice? And really a big thank you to everybody who sent me emails and encouragement today, knowing this is my first webinar, but more importantly to everybody I've annoyed or frustrated, and they love me despite it, and or given me feedback with my best interest at heart. You've helped me grow, you've helped me be who I am today, and without you, I wouldn't have the contentment I have in my life today. I hope that's of value to you. I like to finish and start on time. It is just 1 minute to 1 o'clock. If you want to put any comments, I will stay online. I believe what Claire's going to do is switch the recording thing off now. If you want to leave comments here on the page, I think you can do, or you can join us in the Do Delegate or Ditch Facebook group. Let me know, and I'll be around if you want to discuss some more. But thank you very much, and hope to hear and speak to you soon.